Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Poets and Quants online MBA Student Perspective Panel. Today, we're joined by current students from Baruch Zicklin, Jack Welch, and Kennesaw State. I'm your host, Christy Blyzeffer of Poets and Quants, and please feel free to use the Q&A function to submit any questions you have for the panelists. I'll do my best to get to those at the end of the session. Well, let's begin by getting to know our panelists, and thanks so much for taking the time today. If you would each take a minute to introduce yourself, your current role in company, your MBA program, and a fun fact about yourself. And Mary, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Christy. Appreciate it and looking forward to sharing today. So I'm Mary Weddingle. I am a wife, a mother of three sons, born in New York and currently living in New Jersey. I am part of the Baruch College Zicklin School of Business online MBA program. And for over 20 years now, I've worked at ADP. You may know ADP as the payroll provider. So we are 75 years old, one of the leading payroll providers, and we actually have 1 million clients and pay over 42 million employees. So perhaps your paycheck has come from ADP. I've held numerous roles at my company, anywhere starting from service to training to project management, change management, and then strategic initiatives. I've supported multiple business units as well as the corporate level. And when I first started, the only thing I really knew about payroll was cashing my check and that my net pay and gross pay were not the same amount. So a fun fact about me, as I said, I'm a mother to three sons. I have a rare genetic condition, which actually made my sons have reversed internal organs. So all three of them, their heart, instead of being on the left, is on the right, and it's a complete mirror. They like to freak people out, especially doctors, when they go to a checkup. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact and, a little bit scary, I guess. So that's interesting. Summer, how about you?
Hi there. My name is Summer Schoenhals. I'm attending the MBA program at Jack Welch Institute. I work currently for Form CVS Specialty Infusion Services. I've been here 8 years. I've been an RN for 15 years, but in the helping professions in healthcare for about 30 years. So I do some sort of regional management. I have several states. I manage the nursing care and services in Oregon, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and some subcontracting in Montana as well. I have, let's see, a fun fact about me. Let's see, I auditioned for the Cake Boss about 10 years ago. I had a food business that my husband and I were just kind of toying around with, and we actually got recruited to the show and made runner up. And so that was kind of a fun experience for us. But I've been in the Jack Welch program now I did the 2-year track, and I've been really excited to learn and grow.
How fun. Thank you. Tracy.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. My name is Tracy Graves. I am getting my MBA through the Web MBA program at Kennesaw State University. I started in person thanks to being a recipient of the Paul D. Coverdell Scholarship for my Peace Corps service. And because my family moved out of the state, I knew I wanted to stay at KSU, so I chose the Web MBA program, which I love so much. It was the best decision of my life. I am self-employed. I'm an actor, a writer, a producer. I'm also a yoga instructor. I have private clients in yoga and Pilates and fitness. And a fun fact about me, I actually just helped launch the health and fitness program at my church. And so for the last month, I've been hosting chair yoga sessions with all of the aunties and inspiring them to breathe deeply. So I love that.
Wow, that sounds amazing. That is something I think I need to seek something out like that in my neck of the woods for sure. Well, thank you all again. These student perspectives are particularly important for people that are exploring whether online MBAs are right for them, and your guys' voice and experience is the most important in these discussions. So Summer, we're going to go to you for the first question. tell us what led you to pursue an online MBA. Kind of talk us through your process and whether you decide, considered any other kind of advanced degree.
I I just have always had a very strong passion for learning, but kind of learning outside of the box. The structured classroom setting for me, I've struggled. I actually dropped out of high school when I was 17. I joined the military to get my college money and have done well since then. I did traditional classes when I got my associate's degree in nursing, and it exhausted me. I barely made it through. We moved several times. I had to start over and repeat. I swore I would never go back to school. I then went to the University of Wyoming online program for my BSN and kind of got the taste of, it's something that I can do. I like to work fast and really dive in and hyper focus. Um, but I didn't really know that CBS even had this benefit until a few years ago. So I was in a nurse manager meeting and they mentioned that CBS would pay your tuition and your books. And I considered doing nurse practitioner because it was related to my work and I don't want to leave my job. That's the problem I have. And then I considered maybe human resources development because I manage teams and maybe that would be a benefit. And I ran across the Jack Welch program and it really seemed to suit my needs, but I needed a level of flexibility. My job at that time was at a little bit of a lull, so I had some free time. And right after I enrolled, it quickly changed. I did look at several programs. This one, the ranking, just with the faculty and staff and flexibility was a huge winning point for me, and I've been very happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tracy, how about you? What led you to pursue an online MBA and why your school in particular?
Yeah, so based on the Paul D. Coverdale Fellowship, the fellowship has a relationship with certain programs at certain schools across the country. And there were only two programs that I would have continued my education in. Almost similar to Summer, I thought after I graduated with my undergraduate degree that I would never go back to school. I thought I just made it out. I just wanted a degree. I knew I was going to move to California and be a star anyway. Um, and because I joined the Peace Corps and because they grant financial assistance, I thought, okay, let me go get my MBA. What would I do? Out of the list, there were only two programs I would have chosen. One was a linguistics degree out of Arizona State, and the other one was KSU, which just so happened to be 30 minutes away from my home.
Yeah.
And it was the MBA program.
Yeah.
And it was at a time where I wanted to gain some leadership skills because I don't have very much experience in corporate America. So I'd never got a chance to practice water cooler talk or office politics and gain that maturity and confidence there. So I thought the MBA program was perfect. And that's why I chose KSU, and I love it.
Yeah, awesome. That we're going to talk more about those soft skills later, but they are kind of maybe sometimes the overlooked benefit of an actual MBA. So, Mary, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, pursuing the online MBA program had more to do with the people that I was mentoring. So I really enjoy mentoring. I have several mentees and, juggling three children there for a while. They're all very close in age. It just made me think that it wasn't possible for me at the time. But as my children grew and became more independent, and I continued to mentor people, and they kept talking about their MBA programs, it started to be more and more interesting to me and just seemed more doable with my schedule. And so one of my mentees actually is a graduate from Baruch College, and the new online program was starting up there. So she flipped it around and became my mentor and sent me the information about the online program. And as I learned more and more about it, I kept saying, what is stopping me? I really just need to pull the trigger and do it. And then I also decided to do the MBA because I thought, I've been in the business world for so many years and, it just made sense for what I was doing. And I just feel like also the MBA has that more powerful punch to it, if you will, that it's just a more comprehensive program. So that's how I ended up there. And that's how, I thought I'd go back to my New York roots from where I was born back to Baruch and kind of have that city environment too, which is part of the reason I picked that. And we have the option of with online, we still can go and do in person. So it's really nice having that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tracy, in your kind of decision process, tell me a little bit about, if you considered the ROI of the online MBA versus maybe any of those other programs you were looking at, or a full-time MBA where you actually are leaving the workforce for a couple of years.
Yeah, I actually, like I said, I started in person, honestly, and I took about 3 classes. Only 2 of them transferred into the online program, but that's okay because the other one was an elective, thank God.
Yeah.
Business law. So I feel like when I think about the return on investment from in person, I enjoyed going into the classroom. I enjoyed being able to converse with the professors in person. I enjoy that energy, but I didn't enjoy how much time it took. I didn't enjoy working that around my schedule. And the I was actually kind of scared going into the web MBA program because of the cohort and the teaming aspect of it, how we do our work together. But as I've gone through it, I realized 3 heads are way better than one when it comes to managerial accounting specifically. And the team that I work with is just so fantastic. We actually started out as a group of 5, and we've lost 2, and now we're a group of 3, and we work much better than we did in the beginning, and we're just rocking it out. And I feel like the fact that I get to go into a class that I have set on one night a week and get work done for 2 classes in the span of 2 hours is so beneficial for my schedule because it is flexible and changing constantly. So the return on investment is just that flexibility to just live my life and be able to move and travel and still get my work done and work on my degree.
Yeah. Do you feel like your teammates will be connections you'll have after the program?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they will be. Yes.
That's great. Mary, how about you? How did ROI kind of go into your decision process?
Yeah, I was looking at different MBA programs, and there are some other schools that offer online programs. But when I took a look at Zicklin in particular, especially being in New York City, they have deep ties with, financial tech and a lot of these corporate sectors, that it was a nice balance. And it also has a very robust MBA program. Quite frankly, I compared to some others, and I could have gotten done, a lot sooner, but I felt like it just wasn't the complete picture. So I think having those additional courses are really important. And then the other thing I think is that, it's a very recognized program, but it doesn't have that exorbitant price tag that some schools do. And so that was a nice balance of being part of City University of New York. So the price tag wasn't quite as high, yet you were getting such, a robust education. So that's what really happened for me.
Yeah. Summer, what about you?
Yeah, like I said, I had considered the other degree paths. And for me, it wasn't more, it always is kind of a financial thing too. Like if I'm going to invest this amount of time, what's the return going to be? So, when I narrowed it down to the business degree, I did it because I didn't want a career change. I wanted to be a lot better at what I do and really out of concern for my teams. I manage excellent teams. And I just felt like win or lose, whether or not I make that additional money, that's such a benefit. And I in no way would have prepared for the congruency of what I was learning. And rather than being in a classroom and like just sectioning everything up, it was this really nice flow of I'm learning about this and it's actually happening at my work. And I have tools. It's like you immediately put on a tool belt that you can draw from, in certain situations. And then not only that, you have those people to source your faculty and your peers. Like, I'm in courses with people who work for my company I never knew before in different positions. And so it's excellent networking. And I think for me, that's the return on investment. It moved for more from like a personal gain thing. Like, is it worth the money? Is it worth whatever? To I want to be the best I can be at what I do. And
Yeah.
this is the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mary, let's dive a little deeper into the actual learning experience and the maybe day-to-day, week-to-week kind of things that you're doing. Tell me about, kind of your flexibility, course load, group work versus individual, if you have experiential learning opportunities at Zicklin.
Sure, I'd love to share about that. So I think that's one of the things that drew me to this online program more than ever. What was really nice is the way the program's set up. It's this every 7 weeks, but you do have breaks, but in the semester, it's one course. So within one semester, you can have 2 7-week courses. And so you focus just on that particular topic. So I'm kind of laughing about what Tracy said with the accounting one, like, that is probably not my favorite class. So I was like, phew, it's going to be done in 7 weeks. I'll have that, taken care of. And then some of the other classes that were more enjoyable, it was like, oh, this is going to end in 7 weeks, but maybe there's going to be another course I can take as an elective that could be tied to this kind of course. So I think that really helped motivate me to get through some of those classes that maybe it's not my strength. And then working in the group environments, there was a combination of individual work and group work. So I would say like the most challenging thing about group work, and I'm not sure if my fellow panelists have felt this, is basically trying to figure out our schedules. Not everyone is doing like a traditional, I'm going to say like a 9 to 5. And then there's also people in certain industries. Like I had somebody in my group who's in a morning show production, and she starts work at 2 a.m. and goes through. So it was really difficult to try to figure out, okay, when can we all meet? And I'll admit to all of you, I was a little frustrated at first. However, it really made me appreciate how much we have to schedule together. And that's so real life, right? So anytime you're trying to schedule something in the business world with other people, there's a lot going on there. So I felt like even though that wasn't a course itself, it was teaching me to appreciate some of those skills of like, okay, we've got to compromise. We've got to figure this out. We have to, work on syncing our schedules with each other. And then the nice thing is too, there would be breaks within the semesters. I did compare to some other programs, and it really was like every 7 weeks, just power on through, no real break. What I like about this is we stay with the traditional semesters of the college. So you can do a fall, a spring, a summer, but there is still that little break in between. And so I think that little break helped me so much to recharge and sort of get back into okay, I'm ready for the next set, rather than feeling a little exhausted.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you ever have to work with an international team, getting those hours together is like a very important skill. Summer, how about you?
As far as the group work goes, I'll be very candid and say that was the part of college that I hated. I found that I was often the one pulling the group, or I wasn't happy with the end result. And so really that was a big determining factor for me. The structure of the courses, and the way that our group work is done, it's, you have a requirement, you have to get to the group, the whole group, your whole class, which is people from all over the world, honestly. You have to do something by Wednesday, and then you have to respond to them and engage with them. And that's a big portion of your grade. That gave me a great amount of anxiety. But then again, you're pulling from their tool belts to also learn, and it worked out. That style worked out well for me. My individual projects, are weighted decently too, but that group work, it's collective. It's not necessarily you're assigned a team. You're really accountable, and the class is accountable to you to participate. And So I enjoyed that because, like I said, when I started this program, I had some time. I now manage teams and or work with people in 3 time zones. I'm relocating. My job did a complete restructure in December. Um, and I think that speaks volumes to the flexibility of this program. If you can have those big life events, I had healthcare issues and I was able to kind of get in there. And so, I think for me, the group and individual combination in this specific program for me was just ideal. What I really needed.
Now, is your program 100% online and flexible, or do you have sessions where you have to, get in on a Zoom at a certain time?
We have Zoom meetings. They record them if you're unable to attend, but you have a set module. So you have a module every week over your course. By Wednesday night, you have to post to everybody. You need to get through the material, get your input in, and then you have to respond a couple times by Sunday, and then the assignments have set dates. But I will tell you, there was a point also in a finance class, which seems to be the theme, where I thought I was done. I called my professor and I was honestly crying and just told her, like, I'm embarrassed, but I can't, I'm over my head. I can't do this. I'm traveling, and she just pumped the brakes and she was like, just take tonight, call me tomorrow. I have a plan. And that support, to kind of pluck you out of that, and what can I do to help you? How can we be flexible to meet your needs? We want you to succeed. It's not something hanging over your head like they're waiting for you to fail. They really want you across that finish line. And I've maintained an honor status the whole time I've been there as a result. But the flexibility is very important, for all kinds of people. This one worked really well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that learning experience at KSU?
Right. So we've been able to create a little bit of stability within the flexibility. We meet every Wednesday night, no matter what's going on. We're working on 2 classes per semester. And our program is 14 weeks per semester. And we also have the modules that we're just banging out every week or so, plus our assignments. I would say about 80% of the semester is group work and 20% individual work. And I have also been able to maintain an honor status. I think that's just because I'm older now and I feel like I have the maturity to do the work that it takes. And I really don't think I would have been able to do that without my team
Yeah.
because we have been able to pretty much learn and teach each other.
Yeah.
And we also we are also asynchronous. We have all of our programs online. We do have one class this semester where the professor holds office hours every 2 weeks. So when we enter into a new module, it's a requirement that at least one student per team goes to the office hours. But because we went the first time and we realized how valuable it was, we all go and we
Yeah.
all take notes. So it happens to be on our Wednesday night. So we'll meet for about half an hour. We'll check in. We'll go over some work and decide whether or not we'll come back after the office hours, depending on what assignments we have due or tests we have to complete.
Great. Do any of you have, are there opportunities in the program, whether you choose to do them or not, to, like where there's an immersion where you come together as a cohort or you take a trip together as an elective? Are there any of those kinds of options in your programs, and have you guys participated, Tracy?
No, we don't have those options. We are on our own.
Yeah.
There's an emphasis on taking care of our team and being completely independent of the program until we need guidance or help. So no, we have decided to hold virtual happy hours at the
Oh,
end of the
fun.
semester
Uh-huh.
just to pat ourselves on the back. But other than that, no.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I think you're doing it right. Mary, anything at Zicklin like that you've participated in?
Yeah, so actually, several of us are right in the New York metropolitan area, although like the program is opened, across. And we did a meetup in October. We picked, a certain location for us where we had cocktails and some appetizers together and got to meet in person. So that was really fun. And then we did an online, a virtual, more like a happy hour networking for our entire cohort. And then in the beginning of June, the school has set up to have a networking event for all of us. So a lot of us are saying, oh, we need to get like our student ID because you don't even think about it. You don't have your student ID since you're virtual. The only thing I feel for is some of the people who are, we have folks who are in Texas and Michigan and so forth. And so they can't be part of it. But some of them have even said, you know what, I've been dying to go to New York City. Maybe I'll do a trip. So I find that very encouraging. And especially since it'll be in June, summertime travel will get started. We may get to meet some of those people as well. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Summer, what about it, Jack Welch?
I think I have to say I would probably consider myself the least willing to engage at the beginning of this program because I just wanted to knock it out.
Yeah.
They do like you get frequent invites to like cocktail hour or like an education session, and after you're in it a while, you're seeing some of the same people. I recently ran for the Student Academic Advisory Board, and want to promote student engagement now. I can't believe I'm doing that, but there is a lot of opportunity at Jack Welch for that, and interacting on the side, like Tracy said, with your professors. There's office hours, there's things you can do, and there's these additional resources, all kinds of LinkedIn connections going on in the background. So there is a lot of opportunity for engagement, which I'm surprised by.
Yeah, great. Well, Tracy, I think a lot of times people choose the MBA because they maybe have a very specific career path in mind. But tell us a little bit more. We talked about it earlier about some of the soft skills that you have been working on in the MBA and why they're valuable.
Well, we had a conflict management, I'll say. And I did experience one of my team members not appreciating how comfortable I was able to get when we came together to work. And I thought, we're friends, we're having a good time here. But it was during that conflict management process that I realized, oh, I lack the skills to converse professionally. And I'm used to being on a set where it's encouraged. We're encouraged to go deep and we're encouraged to get personal. And honestly, what I've also learned from this process is on the set, the set is also an office. And we actually do have to treat that creative space as if we were in an office building and still carry respectful and professional conversations. So it's interesting to realize that I have not been taking into account other people's level of comfort. And it's interesting how these skills have actually informed the way I speak to my husband also, or inform the way I speak to people at church or out in the world. So yeah, I've definitely learned how to communicate more effectively
Oh,
in
that's
order
so
to reach people, in order to be
right.
impactful and not just give. I've actually learned how to actually listen.
Yeah, such an important part of leaders and managers for sure.
Who knew?
Mary, what about you?
I think one of the soft skills that I've developed more is around like not making assumptions about people in my group. As I mentioned, it's challenging with the group, getting together with schedules. I think Summer mentioned before, even, if you feel like someone's not pulling their weight. What happened recently was I was in one particular group, and this one gentleman was just, not responding. We had made our rules together as a group. We came up with all of our norms, and it was like, you need to reply to text messages within, 24 hours or, what it was, and he wasn't replying. So I decided, rather than being annoyed and aggravated and frustrated, I actually just messaged him on the side and said, hey, I'm just concerned about you. I know you said that, you could go along with these things, but I'm not sure if something happened or something's going on. And it was amazing, the response. Like, he was telling me how much he was really struggling with the coursework, and he felt like we all had it under control. And, he was really having such a difficult time, but he almost felt embarrassed to tell our group because, you figure at this point we're in graduate school, right? So I was really glad he confided in me. And then we had a great conversation about it. And I was like, how can I support you in this? And it completely turned around, because I will admit, at first I was extremely frustrated. I would have just thought, he's not taking this program seriously, and dumped a lot of conclusions. And so I've been able to apply that right away. Didn't have to finish the MBA course yet. I can do this and not jump conclusions with other people too.
Yeah, you can imagine that exact scenario happening in your work team and being able to use that skill directly. Yeah, very good. Summer, what about you?
I think, as far as soft skills go, there's, something that I immediately noticed is the I don't have as much of a hesitation before I'm making decisions or giving direction to staff, because I feel like now I have a better understanding, that nervous level, like, I hope I understand this right, or the reason that they're asking me for this metric. I don't really have that hesitation anymore. And then, tying into that, I feel like one of the most valuable things I've learned in the Jack Welch program is candid feedback. I'm not protecting my employees by softening over, things that they need to work on. We need to, you know, develop that trusting relationship that, hey, this is something that I'm seeing we need to improve on, or hey, I'm noticing this in you, and also let's develop that, even if it means they don't stay with me, but it's better for the company, to move up into a different role. So the hesitation for me is something that I've really noticed. It's confidence, I think.
Yeah, very good. Well, Tracy, back to you. What would you say is maybe the biggest hallmark of the experience so far, or, the thing that you will really remember, take with you, think about always?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, conflict management skills is probably what I'm absolutely taking away from this program. And I got to jump in and practice that immediately in our first semester of the Web MBA program. And and even my experience for the year in person taking graduate classes was completely different from the Web MBA program, because there was no emphasis on leadership skills during our classes in person. But there is that emphasis here, and there is that emphasis that we can handle the conflict. We don't have a professor to go to when we have issues with each other, because we are here to practice this with each other, and to also be the effective leader that handles conflict management out in the world. So I'm definitely taking that with me, and giving and receiving feedback effectively
Yeah,
also.
very
Mhm.
good. Mary, what about you? Hallmark experience.
Hard to narrow down, but I'll try. I think it's my negotiations course, and Professor Molly Kern. She's an amazing professor. I mean, she's just unbelievable. And I was very fortunate to continue on in her negotiations class. She did a people leadership class that was just so outstanding. But the negotiation class, the thing, like, you negotiate every day and every part of your life. And to have a better understanding of that, I'm like, wow, that was huge. Just understanding the difference between, are you coming from a place of like power, rights, or interests, and understanding, is this a long-term relationship or a short-term relationship? And all the information that goes into it, because the knowledge is power, really, of understanding, what the story is before you go into a negotiation. And I've been able to use that already in my work life, where, I had a group, a team who had to work holidays and weekends. And they used to just rotate it around. If you worked Christmas last year, you're not working it this year. But what I found is, with this course, I started having conversations with people and asking them, like, so what holidays are important to you? And I come to find out, someone who has a younger child said, you know what, the summer ones are really important to me. And then someone else said, I come from this huge Italian family, and the Thanksgiving, Christmas ones are important to me. So we came up with a ranking really based on what was important to them. And they all signed off on it. And they were just like amazed that we didn't just do the rotation where it was just, okay, equal. And they seem so much happier. So I'm really putting those skills to work in my home life and in my professional life.
Yeah, I think the application just also what Tracy said, the application of the online programs are just, it's so immediate. And that's one of the really rewarding things. Summer, tell us about your Hallmark experience.
I think my Hallmark experience has been, nurses go into healthcare because they want to help people and take care. Over the years, I think, and I'm probably not the only nurse feeling this way, you get fed up with insurance and the business side of healthcare. The fact that Jack Welch had this program with the MBA with a focus in healthcare. What I'm leaving this with is, I understand the direction my company's going. I know why they're having to make these difficult decisions that can rub me the wrong way, because it's not in my, it doesn't make sense to me right away. But for me to be able to tie that together and to see the need for that direction, people making bold decisions and differentiating themselves from other companies, it shows that they care for us and they do care for the patients. So I think for me, my hallmark is having that tie together for me. It kind of takes that self-conflict out of like what I do for a living. So I do understand the business need, and I appreciate my company more. I appreciate my employees more. And I can confidently speak that to my patients and my staff, which is outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for our next two questions, we're going to maybe get into a little advice you guys might have for people that are, kind of making this decision on whether or not to do an online MBA right now. Sticking with you, Summer, first, can you give us a little advice on how you balance the work, family, school? What kind of tips do you have to making that all kind of work together?
For me, well, and I've told you I came about this the hard way. The biggest thing you can do is communicate. Yeah, these programs are set up to make you successful. And where I had failed was that I was getting overwhelmed, and I just kept getting further and further behind, and I wasn't saying anything, and I could have saved myself so much grief. The communication, I think looking now, I have a lot of forethought. What does my next week look like? Oh, it's pretty bad. So I should probably maybe ask if I can get materials ahead of time and start working ahead, and just trying to, manipulate my time and the schedule with school so it works. And I haven't had any trouble since. But like I said, I was ready to jump off the cliff, and I would have, but because I was not communicating, and it's, you have to do that with your professors. They need, life happens, and it's not punitive, maybe you need to pause, but maybe you don't have to.
Great advice. Thank you. Tracy, what about you?
Yes, time management for sure helped me. I probably dedicate about an hour and a half to 2 hours every other day to a module, unless we have a test or an assignment coming up, and then I'll spend more time. But we also communicate, just like Summer said, with each other and my team. If we feel like there is someone who has a higher interest in this assignment or just has more knowledge, then that teammate will step up and be the leader that week for that assignment. And creating team roles every week at the beginning of the semester has really helped us stay focused on who's going to be the leader this week, who's going to take notes, who's going to send the assignments out. And we have been flexible. Like I said, I had more of an interest in writing the paper on the brain-computer interface. So I aggregated all of our information and was the leader on that project, even though I wasn't the leader that week. And one of our guys loves math, and he's the one teaching the other two how to use Solver in Excel, even if he wasn't the leader that week. So definitely time management has helped me. I put it in the calendar. I sit down, tune out the world, and just focus on the work.
Yeah, you guys could put a whole workshop together about how your team manages. It seems like you guys have that figured out. Mary, what is your advice for work-life balance?
I think it's kind of basing on what Summer and Tracy have said and communicating, but also like letting your family and friends know that you're doing this. Because it's amazing how respectful people can be when you say, like, oh, I have my class tonight. They're like, oh, okay, well, we won't do something on Wednesdays, or, we won't do that. I think, the respect is amazing. And the other thing is, my husband happens to own his own business. And so a lot of times in the evening, he was doing work. And I'll admit to all of you, I was probably like streaming Netflix mindlessly, going, wait, what am I doing here? And you get so wrapped up in that you're like, wow, 2 hours just went by and I haven't done anything. And I've been so used to, juggling work and my three children and all of their activities, that it was like, wow, I had some downtime, but now I could actually do something for myself. And I think also just not being afraid to ask for help. My sons have been so thrilled to help me with certain things with class. Like, I didn't understand Blackboard at first and some of those others. And they were like, oh, I can help you. So the roles got a little reversed, and it really just became almost more fun. And as I had mentioned before, I think it's really nice with the semesters having a little bit of a break. So
Yeah.
that helps balance it and sort of get you recharged for your next one, so that you're not just so like feeling overwhelmed and lots of assignments. To me, it's the best busy I could possibly be.
That is so fun to have your sons help you. And I think that telling the family, I need some grace here is, and just kind of asking permission is important. We're always kind of trying to work around our school and work schedules and forget that the family is a big part of that as well. Great advice. All right, for our last question, we're going to ask each of you to kind of give that biggest piece of advice for the people that you were once in their shoes, thinking, should I, shouldn't I, go for an online MBA. So Mary, what is your advice for someone kind of on that fence right now?
Yeah, I would say stop putting it off, but be ready to commit. It's a two-parter, right? So it's like your time is going to pass anyway. I had some friends who, during COVID time, they started doing some of these online programs because they're like, I actually have time on my hands. And I think, either way, the time is passing. You might as well do something productive for it, something that's going to help stimulate your mind. Definitely helps add to all the dimensions in your professional as well as your personal life. And I think that was maybe the most surprising of all of it. I kind of thought, okay, this is going to be for my profession and eventually to be an adjunct professor. Really starting applying it right away, like the value is just about immediate. So don't put it off. If you need to occasionally take a semester off or something like that, you can always do that.
Yeah, great advice. Summer, how about you?
I think what I've learned is I'm surprised how not busy I am, even when I'm very busy. Like, I fill my time, I like to read and I love to watch TV and go out and do things. But, when I'm applying myself in this program, I'm tighter on everything else, and I'm making time for those important things, and I'm more productive. I would say personally, the amount of confidence that comes from a program like this, there's no price on that. And there's no amount of time that's not worth. I would say just go for it, and if you're communicating your needs into your family and your support groups, there's no reason to not do it. I just can't see any downside to it, even through the difficulty I've had during the program. I would do it all over again. I'm already looking at the next one,
Oh,
to be
wow.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Tracy, advice for people making the decision.
Yeah, I'd say do your research. Spend the time to reach out to admissions or a teaming director. Find out how the course is structured. Are you okay working in a team? Do you need to be alone? Do you need to log in and be lectured by a professor every week on the topic, or can you teach yourself? I think we have to check in with ourselves first, and then see where you're willing to stretch as well. Because technically, if I had taken my own advice, I would not have signed up for the KSU Web MBA program because of the teaming aspect. But I'm so glad that I did, because I also don't necessarily need my hand held. So I'm excited that I get to practice being a leader. So I would suggest checking in and seeing, do you want your hand held through a program, or do you want the freedom to grow and be the best you that you can be?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. We are out of time, but you know, letting prospective students hear from actual students is one of the best research things they can do to see what kind of program is right for them. And of course, thanks to all our viewers. We have many more panels throughout the rest of the day and some from yesterday. You can find those on our YouTube channel. And as always, we have lots of program information at poetsandquants.com. And so until next time, thanks for joining us.